Hello everybody, it's the Doctor here with Typical Manga Fan, and this episode of Typical Manga Review is dedicated to what by all indications will be the penultimate chapter of Bleach, chapter 684, The Blade, which is a different thing from the weird little English gibberish we've been getting the last few weeks, so don't know what to make of that just yet. But in any case, we're opening up from where we left off last week. Ichigo is slicing right through Yuwak. He's just looking back, oh hi! I'm sorry, just when I look at the image, that's what I think about.
And it says like he put everything to that one swing, that one attack, that one Getsuga Tensho.
So it's obviously going to succeed.
It's not even a black Getsuga Tensho. That's the thing. I thought Bankai Ichigo was supposed to be able to do a black Getsuga. How's it any different from the Getsuga he can do with his Shikai? Like, it's just stronger, and that's just so boring. Because everyone's like, what can this new Bankai do? Oh, it's the same thing, just stronger. It's like, okay, that's not bad, but I want it. You know, when you hype someone up for 100 chapters, you want something a little different.
Yep, in any case, Yuwak dissolves into a blob of eyeball goo.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's it?
And
what?
Aizen, minus one arm, praises Ichigo for responding quickly to the Kyoka Suigetsu. Like, he realized that Ichigo realized the feeling was similar to when he'd felt it released in the past, like when everybody else was under its effect and he wasn't. And Aizen revealed that he actually did let it go, release it early before everybody else arrived, like only when Yuwak was around.
Yeah. So, but that means that Renji kind of fell into it. So, was that actually him who got his arm like cut off? Because I assume that was probably him.
Well, yeah, because he can still fall under it because he's already been used on him before.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So Renji's like, damn it, which is kind of Renji gets screwed over again. What was he even here for then? You know.
Real quick, someone actually pointed out on the Bleach board, Renji actually has a worse win-loss record than Chad.
No, he does. No, he does.
Yeah.
I talked about the Why Rule of Times review of Bleach, and he said he said one of the problems was that that they had the problem with how Waiko Mundo was all like so exciting. He said Chad beats someone that we don't remember and they immediately loses someone in like the next few seconds. Right. And right after that he says Renji loses to everyone.
Yep. Anyway, Aizen is it's kind of like just musing over the fact that never showing Ichigo the release of Kyoka Suigetsu would have actually paid off the way it did. And then Yuwak eats him.
First question. Why didn't he ever show Ichigo the Kyoka Suigetsu? Why?
I don't know if he just never did it for any particular reason.
He never did it, but he just why not? Like, what? Yeah, okay, obviously it benefited in this situation, but he just said he had no way of knowing this was going to happen. So it just makes that previous thing look stupid. Like, you had this it's like he tried to make it harder on himself, like the way Ginjo did, just because he thought it'd be too easy to win everything against everyone. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's not his style.
It's not his style to be too good. Well, okay. Anyway,
well, it's not his style to hold back like that knowingly. You're right. Not like Kenpachi or Ginjo would.
Yeah, it's not.
Anyway.
But so right now we see Aizen just get enveloped by the shadows.
Yep, Yuwak ate him.
Supposedly, and you can apparently Yuwak survived because it was only Kyoka Suigetsu that was keeping him down, and then for whatever reason, the effect has edited, and so he can come back. And the reason why he says he can come back is that without Kyoka Suigetsu.
Wait, when he's saying Kyoka Getsu's effect appears to end, is that Aizen talking or Yuwak?
That's Yuwak.
Oh.
See, because he said pride, or did it just reach its limit? So,
okay.
And also, keep in mind that Aizen's mouth is like covered. And so, Yuwak says that didn't kill him because he was able to make a future in which he was not dead.
Yeah, he can even rewrite futures in which he's died.
Wait a second. But the problem is then that's in the past now, not the future. So, like, how can you do that? Do the almighty power when you're already you're already dead. Two,
maybe something about it lets him like make it look like he's dead long enough to make a comeback. Maybe it's supposed a future like that, or he faked it, or he cast feigned death on himself.
Yeah, but I'm saying like to cast that, to use the power, you had to be alive. Because he had to use his power.
That's my point. Like, if he saw a future in which he'd been killed, he would ahead of time, like, maybe like create such a way that it makes it look like he's been killed.
So you're saying like he used the ability before he actually died in this
Yeah.
like reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it would have been really weird because I'm like the problem is though it's like how would he, but the thing is though he did get slashed by Ichigo, so what kind of future was there in which he it's just so weird, you know, this power.
Well,
Because it's even though there are many different futures, they're all still rooted into one like event or turning point, you know, a fixed point in time to make a reference there. And so it's just kind of weird that there is a future in which he somehow survived that attack, even though in this one he didn't. It's just kind of like, why is that future different? You know, you have to ask all these questions.
and then at that point, like he said, he goes full shadow monster, attacks Ichigo, starts ring something around the dome surrounding Soul Society there. Like, this is the end. This world, Soul Society, will, before my power, lose in their form and become one. Then he gets shot in the chest.
Okay. So he just said that he still has his powers.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did he not see that coming?
Yeah. Also, I'm noticing something on the art here. Like, at the angle on top, it looks like the arrow's going through his back and out his front. Yeah. And it's going at a downward angle. And yet, down there below, it looks like Uryu is shooting from below him.
Oh, you're right! Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the angle makes sense. He could have just turned around, but yeah, you're right. It looks like he.
All right. Anyway,
okay.
I don't know what to make of this one. He says he searched Soken. Is that the grandfather, right? Uttered these words once. The silver that forms as a result of Oswallen is referred to as still silver, and mixed with the blood of the one who activated the Oswallen can for an instant stop his powers. Well, I'm not so much bothered by the uber convenience of that, so much as he heard this from his grandfather, who apparently this came up long beforehand.
No, I think this is actually what Techie 101 talked about. He thinks that these are actually from Uabok. Like Uabok is saying this.
Oh.
Yeah. But he said he heard Soken say this. So then this is actually what Soken said. That's why he says, and that's why he switches to his powers rather than my powers, because this is what he's heard. But this is what he heard Soken say.
Okay.
Although if that's the case, I wonder why he wouldn't just be more wouldn't he be more careful if he heard someone say this?
That's what I was wondering myself. Like, I almost wonder if Soken was selling that as a warning. But in any case,
I don't think he was talking to Yua. I think he was talking to someone else, and Yua overheard it because he says stop his powers, which is therefore means shows that he wasn't talking to Yua. Yep. Either that or this translation sucks, because who knows.
Yep.
But I mean, I will say this: the scene in which his powers did stop, his expression, that's a cool scene. Like I like that.
Like the whole blood veiny thing that coming out from the arrows and all that.
Yeah, like him losing his powers, him being just like, no, damn it, you know. That's actually kind of cool because we haven't seen expression from his face because he has blackness over his eyes and he just his mustache covers everything. Like you don't see anything from him, so it's kind of cool to see him finally show that. And so I will say this. There's a possibility that maybe he couldn't predict it because if it has the power to stop his. If it can stop his own powers, then maybe its existence is something he himself cannot predict. So if Uryu uses that power, it's possible. I'm stretching it here.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
It's not completely crazy though.
It's not crazy, but I just hate how. I think there's a difference between being subtle and not giving the answer, but letting the fans kind of figure it out for themselves, and just not giving any information at all, and just like having us to like throw out theories out there, which is the one that makes the most sense. Just because there's no other possible explanation, you know? And so this power, you know, it stops him, and he says, one of you managed to stop my powers for an instant. And then, at first, I want to point out, is anyone noticing something here? Like the
overuse of the phrase "an instant"?
Yeah, I watched some Bleach episodes, I reread some of the manga, and this chapter and the previous chapters. I mean, anyone here has noticed that these characters say instant a lot. I think even Ichigo said, like, I'll stop this in an instant sometime, like, some other chapters ago.
I can't remember if I saw you tweet it or if I saw it mentioned somewhere else. I'm pretty sure now
I tweeted
it, yeah.
Yeah, I tweeted it. That they use the word instant a lot, and I made fun of it about, like, 2 years ago. At this point, it's just getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
Uryu calls on Ichigo to attack. Ichigo does. Is there something odd with Ichigo's eye in this panel when he's swinging the sword?
Oh yeah, his left eye looks weird. Maybe it's like you know how sometimes characters will get injured so much they like get like the eyes just like close because it's like, so bruised. Maybe that's it, or maybe he's just, or maybe maybe the pupils are cutting cover, but it just looks weird.
Anyway, Yuak tries to block the sword, but it looks like this whole time part of that Bankai has just been a casing for what looks like a version of Ichigo's Shikai.
Yeah, and it turns out he actually did have two eyes, so I guess it's just the hair covered his pupils.
Well, or just weirdly drawn.
Yeah, that too. Actually, I can see how it looked. What it looked like, what Kubo's trying to do though. So anyway, the Bankai has like the outer part has been broken by Yua. This Bankai has been like destroyed over and over again. Whatever.
Actually, looking at it now, I don't think it was broken. It looks more like the outer casing came off.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the casing came off. Like the casing was broken. I'm just saying that the Bankai is just it's never in good condition. Like, so it got broken the first time, they got broken the second time, but it turns out to be an illusion. Now it's actually broken, kind of broken. It's just like, damn, Ichigo, your Bankai has been taken, and that's excluding the first time his Bankai got cut in half by Hashwall too. Like, wow. So the Bankai is broken off and is showing his Shikai, his original Shikai, the meat cleaver.
Yeah, and Yuak remembers the dream he had right before the fight with Ichigo started.
In which he said he saw a glimpse of the future. I mean, if you actually go back, remember we talked about how, for some weird reason, he saw Ichigo in his normal Shikai, like his original Shikai robe and his sword, attacking him. And he said, and he's saying, "Oh, I thought this was a dream, but it turns out that this is what Hashwall was showing me." I have a lot of problems with that statement alone. One, you had your powers for like 1,000 years. How can you not differentiate the difference between a dream and a future? Two, okay, you're seeing the Shikai, right? That's what he's seeing, and that's what it's supposed to be a premonition of. Why is everything else? Why are you seeing everything else? Why do you see Ichigo in his normal Shikai robe? Why did you see that dream when you were in there, like when you were sleeping, or when you were in your throne room? Like, why? What if the Shikai is the one that remained the same into reality? Why did you see everything else? Right? And three, if Hassel was trying to tell you this, why was he making it so damn subtle to the point that you couldn't interpret it correctly? If he was a guy who was like all loyal to you, wouldn't he be like, Yuha, I can see something that that for whatever reason you can't, even though Yuha can see more than Hassel. Like, there's a lot of problems.
There could be a limitation on the communication between that point, because at that point Hassel was already fighting Uryu.
Yeah, but if he saw a future in which your Buck died, then wouldn't that be like a little concerning? And he would, and there's the thing though. Like,
maybe there's a limitation on what he could do at that time. Like, he couldn't just call and say, "Yo, boss, I saw you get whacked."
Okay, then why did he make it so subtle? Why did he make this? You said it was because the communication was really bad. But here's another thing. Well, here's another thing is, Hashwell said himself that he can only see like a little, he has only a little bit of that power. Yuha has the entire thing. Like, he has the whole. So why is it that Hashwell could see something that Yuha couldn't? See, it's stated that Hashwell had little. He only was able to like use a little bit of that power, and then it was actually Yuha could use all of it. So if anything, Yuha is the one who should know something that Hashwell doesn't, and that was what we were told.
Yep.
So I don't. There's a lot of problems in this.
Yep. You want to know another thing? The antithesis did fuck all.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. What was the entire point of the antithesis? They said, okay, that this is as powerful. This is an A. He was letter A. So he's also the A. So it's like around the same level. Turns out it was really nothing. I mean, it was still a powerful technique, but it's not like, why should he deserve the A? Just like Almighty, It's not the Almighty. The freaking balance. It's basically similar, but actually more like useful because you can redirect it. You can keep redirecting, whereas with Uryu you have to wait after a while until you can use it, and you can also have the Almighty power half the time. So there's like, and it's even shown like that B versus A. B versus antithesis, balance versus antithesis. Balance was the better one. So yeah, I don't understand. So he got the powers, and he wasn't stolen. So you think, okay, first off, why did he give the powers? Two, why didn't he take the power back? And three, I guess there was no point. And also I forgot to mention that Hashwell himself stated that power was actually dangerous to Yuha.
Yes.
And nothing came of that.
Not at all.
Okay, so we got that. Okay, so I'll talk about a little more, but after we'll go to the next page, and that is showing Yuha getting sliced again. But this time you Sorry.
Bisected.
Yeah. You can actually see, you look back, you look at the bigger picture, you can see like it looks like an eye got cut. Because eyes of Yua, all that stuff. So he's trying to be very metaphor, symbolic, not really metaphor, but symbolic of the fact that the eye, the power, the Almighty has been cut, and so has Yua. And it says broken alongside Zangetsu. I'm just assuming that Zangetsu broken as in the original Bankai, like the new Bankai got broken back into the Shikai.
They got kicked back into the Stone Age.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's. I guess the biggest thing here we have to talk about is the Shikai. Why did it turn back into the Shikai? And why would that Shikai have enough power to destroy Yua?
Well, like I said, my impression on this is that it never reverted to the Shikai. It's just that part of the Bankai has always been underneath the casing of the sword.
Okay, well, I mean, no, that's what I meant. And like, why was the Shikai always like what? Why was the Shikai sword the core of the Bankai? Why was it there in the first place? Like, is it? You know what I'm saying?
I'm saying that that's not the. It's never been. It's not the Shikai. Like that's still the Bankai. It's just like a core of the Bankai that looks like the old version.
Okay, why does it look like the old version though?
That I have nothing for.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it just comes down to why does it look like that? A lot, like, there has to be some type of meaning behind that. A lot of people say, well, it's to show that this is how he began and this is how he ends. That's great as a metaphor and all, but practically, like, why? But in terms of practicality, why did the new Bankai turn into something similar to his old Shikai? I mean, it is similar in every way. It might be stronger.
Yeah.
But why does it look like the same? Like what I'm saying is like, why did you why not just finish the fight with his new Bankai and be done with it? But why do you have to have this whole sequence where you break down the Bankai and have his Shikai underneath, so that you can do that little callback to Yua seeing his Shikai in the dream? Is that it? Or are you trying to do the metaphor in which you say, oh, this is how it began, this is how it ends? But you say like that metaphor doesn't really make sense if they're not actually the same. Or maybe it does. It just if they look the same, that's enough. Who knows? So if this is his new Bankai, so this is so weird. It's just weird that his new Bankai looks basically like his Shikai, his original Shikai. Like why? I in Twitter I said maybe the reason why this is the case is because the reason why the Shikai his original Shikai was basically his Quincy powers being like kind of like using a little bit of Shinigami powers. Right. I said maybe because he took the Quincy blade and then his Shinigami blade in his Shikai form and combined it. The Quincy form kind of formed the core of the blade, and right. Therefore that's why it looks like the original Zangetsu, because it is actually the Quincy power that was kind of like the core. And the Quincy powers is what made the original Shikai, and therefore you can put two and two together and make it like say, oh, it just shows you that the Quincy was always part of him or something like that. A lot of people don't really understand. I mean, I feel like it's trying to be deep, but in reality, it's just kind of like.
I don't even think it's trying to do that.
No.
No, I mean it's just like, making it. I think it's just trying to look cool more than anything else. Like they're trying to make it look so cool that we won't really question it too much. Mission failed, by the way, but because it is a cool idea, like having all this, and it's like he's like having the sword look like it's going to be broken again, only for it to be the old version. But is pretty cool.
The old version sucked though. Mm-hmm. Like it stopped being useful after Kenpachi. If you think about it, it stopped being useful after Kenpachi since the Soft started. After that, he was basically intense on Zangetsu for literally the entire time.
Yeah, because he always did use his Bankai and or Visard power, or Visor power, or Hollow power.
It's Visor.
Yeah, I know. I remember.
Yeah. But because he was also, it's even stated like he's been in Bankai the longest, because he went Bankai against Grinjal, and then he never stopped being in Bankai until after he lost his powers. In which case, that was like the last time we saw a Shikai, and then we saw a Shikai again when he regained his powers. I'm just having a hard time understanding. Like what was Kubo's mindset? Like what was his thing? What was he thinking when he did this? He's like, oh, I wanted to be kind of cool looking, or I wanted to mean something, or maybe I'm trying to say like, oh, the Quincy powers were what made him to begin with, and so this is just showing that the Quincy powers are always with him. Because this blade actually kind of, to me, so, at least what I think it means is that this is Quincy powers, not just like and But even though Quincy's don't use blades, or they don't use it as much as. I don't know. I'm trying to rationalize this in my head. It could be anything, honestly. Like, it really could be anything. Kubo could come out in an interview and say, "Oh, I meant it this way." It could be something no one ever thought of. You know, we'd have to take that. So who knows? And I said, like, it seemed like an odd vision though, right? So I mean, like,
yeah, because it is like a weird little mismatch of everything, just making it more confusing.
I mean, if you look at the dream, who in their right mind would say, "Oh, that means that his Shikai is going to, or whatever looks like his Shikai is going to be the one that destroys Yubaba?" It's sort of like, because then you have to ask yourself, okay, why was he singing in his throne room? Why was Ichigo in his normal robe? I mean, it looked like a dream, and he did, and Yubaba does dream. He says that. Yes. He says that. So, I just, and also.
I mean, if there had been some foreshadowing there, maybe they could have at least said something like, his dreams are less reliable because he doesn't have the Almighty at that time.
But this. He said that this came from Hashwell, who did have the Almighty.
Well, maybe like that. He sounds like he's only just realizing that, but still.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, since the dream came from Hashwell, who had the Almighty.
But my point is just like, if he dreams regularly and he has dreams of things like that, maybe that's why he initially disregarded it.
Okay. And also apparently people with the Almighty power can send each other messages in dreams. Apparently, yeah. I didn't know that.
It's like AIM.
Although to me, I don't know. I feel like even though Hashwell was fighting against Uryu, I felt like he would have been a little more concerned. It didn't even look like he was concerned about that at all. Like, at what point did Hashwell look like he was like, I gotta set, like, it didn't seem like he was sending any type of message to Yuha. Like, he was just, it seemed like he was all focused on Uryu. So there was no reason to even think that even came from Hashwell. Like, you know? Like, the fact that it came from Hashwell is something that we just found out this chapter. There was no foreshadowing to that. This literally came out of Kubo's ass.
I mean, a lot of this stuff, it seems to feel that way just because we've been getting this rush job to the end of the thing here. In fact, what I mentioned before, there was an article, mostly on Crunchyroll, and I think a couple other spots as well, that announced that Bleach was ending right alongside Nisekoi. And this is kind of like, and to me, this highlights the difference between a series finishing and a series ending. Because Nisekoi has spent the past few months worth of chapters tying up all the little loose ends. Like, all the characters that wanted the main character, Raku's, like, are all fighting their own way, their own things, getting over the cross, finding someone else, etc., etc., etc. Here, we have all this needlessly prolonged fighting, all this stuff that could have been condensed and moved along a lot quicker, and now we're in the very finale, and we're getting this hacked up rush job.
Well, see, this thing is like, I can't put any blame other than Kubo. Like, I'm getting annoyed by how many fans are saying it's not Kubo's fault at all. It's if anything, it's 100% Kubo's fault. Right. If you think about it, the publishing company Shueisha, right? They could have canceled Bleach 683 times. Because, you know, after he gets the first chapter, they could have canceled it after 10 chapters. They could have canceled at 20. They let him go on for this long. They don't have it out for Bleach, okay? They're not trying to. They're not like, oh, I don't like Bleach, so I'm gonna cancel it. All they care about is the money and the stuff that comes in that Kubo gives, right?
Yeah.
So that means, and
go ahead.
I was saying, like, that means that whatever changed was on Kubo's side. Because they look, if they say, like, hey, Kubo, you're not making enough money, but we think you can make more, they'll say it to Kubo, and he'll try to do something about it. It just seems like it doesn't seem like a rash decision to make for something as popular as Bleach. Like, I get it, Bleach has been on the decline, but it's
on that note, I think I even read somewhere that it's actually been on the bottom of the barrel for a while now too, as far as ratings or rankings.
No. Well, so first of all, we'll say it's been on decline ever since its height, like, you know, Soul Society arc, even Hueco Mundo, like. Ever since then, it went down, and I think it went back up with the Bonin, right? But in terms of quality, it's definitely been going down.
Yeah.
In terms of the sales, it's actually the last volume was actually in the top 10. I actually tweeted that out.
Well, I'm thinking more like the week-to-week rankings on the magazine.
Well,
I don't know where you would find those. To be honest, I said one person just said that it's been pretty consistently low within the bottom 5.
Okay, but then that's Kubo's fault, right? But then that would be Kubo's fault. It's his fault that for whatever reason the audience doesn't want to read it, right? So, what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, Suisha is just responding to the performance that Kubo gives in his manga, because, you know, there's another series they could cancel instead of Bleach. Why didn't they cancel that series? Because that series is doing better, or this series or that series, you know. And you're saying, oh, maybe this is the treatment that all manga gets, or this is the treatment that Naruto, or a treatment that long running series gets. Naruto edited pretty well. I mean, in fact, if anything, it dragged on longer than it should.
Yeah.
But it ended the way you could tell it ended the way Kishimoto wanted it to end.
For better or for worse.
Right on. Yeah, for better or for worse. Yeah. Actually, I like the ending.
I've seen people kind of comment against it, but I'm fine with it myself. So.
I mean, honestly, it's better than what could have been. We'll just say that. Mm-hmm. It seemed like Kubo did something that just didn't let them have that treatment. I mean, so to say to that is like, look, Suisha does not have it out for Kubo. They're not like they're not like, you know, the fans who say, oh, Bleach should end. All they care about is, if you make me the money, I don't give a shit about how bad your story is, you know? Because let's face it, publishing companies rather have popular but bad stories rather than, you know, unpopular but good stories. Okay, that actually does happen a lot out there, and we all know that when it comes to making more money, that's what the publishing company will do. So it's Kubo. It is Kubo.
One of the things is I saw it posted somewhere. It's like it was more like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. Like it's not really intended seriously, but it's like they imagine a scenario where Suigetsu, Jump, whoever tells Kubo, all right, now Kubo, you've got until the 15th anniversary to get this series worked out and done. Okay, can you do that? Yeah, I can do it. I mean, we're telling you right now, we're not exchanging your minds. This is it. I got this. Don't worry. Then around this time, like, okay, dude, I need more time. What? Basically, like, they tell him exactly like when it's gonna end. It's like he tries to, like, okay, I just need a little more time. I can do it. Like, I don't think it was meant seriously. It's just pretty like kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. I just thought it was kind of funny.
I mean, a lot of the fact is there's a lot of conjectures that we can make, but we don't really know what actually happened. Like, for first off, if Kubo I think the worst scenario is if he actually did this on his own, in which case you suck as an author. You suck worse as an author, Kubo.
Yeah.
Because there's no way. I'm gonna be on your side for this one. There's no way you did this on your own free will. There's no way. If you did this because you wanted to be like that, you suck you are the worst mangaka I've ever seen. If that is the case.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a mangaka end like this on his own free will. It has to be because the publishing company said no, end it now.
Yeah. Also, by the way, one other thing, last little thing that kind of came to my mind here, that during this whole thing, it's been taking place in Soul Society, right? Say, Ray-Tay?
Above Soul Society. Well, I mean, either above or in it, or because the Von Reich was actually overshadowing it, so you know you can get technical about the reality, but yeah, in that area.
Main reason I'm wondering is because where's the Tweety Baro flock?
Yeah, I was actually assumed that maybe Osvalent killed him, or
but he had already lost his Vand and full standing at that point, or Halo.
Yeah, but I think he might have used like an ultimate Osvalent that like killed it, like actually took everything else, or Kira just killed everyone because they had Kira come in there for whatever reason.
To show off his new piercing.
Okay, I don't understand why they brought back Kira. Okay, and then another question.
Well, wait. I mean, the reason they brought back Kira is simple. They wanted to show off his new piercing.
Yeah, I have another question. What is the casualty rate? I mean, you exclude the nameless Shinigami, the ones no one gives a shit about. What is the casualty? What is the casualty of the Shinigami, the Gote 13?
Has anybody actually died?
Yeah. Yamamoto, his lieutenant. I'm not gonna say his name. It's like
Sasakabe.
Yeah, whatever. The first name sounds weird, like Chojiro. I don't know. But yeah, the first and second lieutenant, and then the first division captain and lieutenant, right? Unohana died because she got killed by Kenpachi. That doesn't count.
Yeah, it also was pointless, but that's a whole other issue.
We can argue that maybe the two visors got killed, but I mean, they just got brought back as zombies, so I don't know if that can even count. And they can, and it's shown that Mayuri can actually resurrect them completely with Hijigaya and Rangiku. Nemu was technically alive because even though her body was destroyed, her brain's still alive, and he's gonna obviously rebuild her.
So he has the technology.
Yeah. Hell, he was the one who got Kira back. So, even in this in the face of these guys who are like all stronger than captains, and and supposedly were like destroying the shit out of everyone the first the first 2 times, and still being powerful the third time. You think about it,
every
really,
Stern Ritter has died in some form or another, basically.
Yeah, and our Stern Ritters were like, it didn't. I think I know. Okay, I heard that Kubo was actually going to kill Byakuya when he fought against Asnoth the first time. I think he should have, but the fans didn't want that, so he got pressured into changing his mind. I think he should have stayed with that, because there's more emotional. You can get more emotion out of this, more in character development from killing off a few important characters than just leaving them all alive and just being like, well, that kind of sucked, but at the end of the day, no one died, or no one really that people cared about died.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't seem like that much of a threat if you think about it. When you look at hindsight, like, oh, no one died. Okay, we're good. I mean, of course, Captain Commander died, and Sasakabe, whatever his name was, Sasakabe or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like and they did actually get some emotion out of that, but that's not enough. Like, that is not enough versus 26 plus Stern Ritter, because there's more, like 2 of them are wide, and there's
Sigma.
Sigma. What's his name? Shaz Domino. And then there's the other V, because there's 2 Vs, right. And then there's 2 As, although we don't count Uryu. I mean, they all just flat out died, and yet only two of the Shinigami died. It just doesn't seem like they were that big of a threat, you know. I don't want to be the guy who says kill off these big characters just for the sake of it, but at the same time, I feel like we actually this would be more memorable if some big characters actually did die.
Yeah.
And also, I just got reminded of the Komamura's immortal thing. It's like,
oh yeah.
You wasted that all on Bambita. Could have done it on someone else, maybe.
Not to mention, Komamura could be considered a casualty.
He's just a dog. I mean, he's a dog now, but he's still alive. I wouldn't, you know.
Well, he's no longer a functioning Shinigami, though.
No, but come on. It's not the same. It's not the same emotional impact as that, you know.
Yeah, true. Well, I don't know about that, actually. I mean, emotional impact, I could say, would at least manage to hit the mark there a bit, like better than some of the other stuff we got in here.
Well, I mean, it hit the mark better than anyone else, but that doesn't mean it hit the mark well, right? Because you can't bog down something based on how good everything else does, because that's not fair. That's like all you do is just lowering the bar, and you should never lower the bar. You should keep the bar at the same level and say, I expect you to be at this level. I'm not going to lower it. Yeah, or better. Because I have standards, and you should have standards too, and that's why we're here. You know, you should never lower the bar because he's that means you're rewarding someone for sucking all the time. You know, it's not. I don't know. It's not good enough, and that's the whole entire arc, and last 2/3 of the manga, in a nutshell. It's just not good enough. And so apparently the next chapter is gonna be the last one. Maybe I don't know. I don't think Kubo's gonna be like ballsy and try to fit in the antithesis and have you a box survive again, because I don't think he's gonna do that. That's just ridiculous, right?
What was that?
Like, he's not gonna have you a box survive again, right? He's like, Kubo, yours dead, like done, right?
I mean, I don't know. Depends on if he wants to get like one last little thing in at the beginning.
The impact is less and less. I've actually heard that was a criticism of Black Clover, another manga, where they had the same thing happen 2 chapters in a row, and so the second one just wasn't as good. And that's the thing. Like, if you have this,
they did have something like that, where they did kind of like they kind of had like to double up to kind of win the fight. I think in that case the delivery worked out a little better though.
I actually heard a lot of people just didn't like the fact that it happened again, because the second time wasn't as good as the first time.
Fair enough.
But in this case, it's like, okay, the big finish the first time. Okay, and then the second, the problem is that all 3 were portrayed as the big finish, and so each time you say, oh, you do a fake out, the next time you do it, especially if it's just one chapter, in the next one chapter away, it's just not as good, because you've already wasted the build up on another finish, you know.
Yep.
So if Yuabok is alive again, whatever finish he'll get, it just won't be as good. Especially with the way that how Yubak, he the powers to stop, his expression, just everything. The fact that he saw the Shikai. I mean, there was just way too much build up in this chapter alone to really negate all that, right? And be like, I actually survived again. Woo!
Yeah. So it probably won't. We might. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think at most maybe we'll see maybe a final words type thing from Ewok next week at the very beginning.
What I'll say is like, if you think about it, you didn't even need the arrowhead. Like, if you just finished with the last chapter, I'm sure a lot of people would have accepted that, right? And if anything, it's less of a Deus Ex Machina, because Aizen's abilities was shown to have worked on Yuha, and it makes sense that it could actually affect his clairvoyant powers because it affects the eyes. And I know it's a little metaphysical here, but Yuha does use eyes as his power, right? So it just makes sense. Like you can maybe you have to stretch it a bit, but it makes sense. The arrowhead is just like, okay, it was kind of foreshadowed, but not really well. I mean, we saw he was doing something with the body, but it's like that could have been anything, right? That could have been anything. Actually, I'll say this though.
Yep.
That happened before even like all these fights began, right? It was back when Uryu was talking with like the other Sterner, right?
Which part?
The when he flashed back to when his mom died.
Oh.
When was that?
Do you mean when he saw his father operating on her?
When was that? Yeah. When was that?
I want to say it was not long before the reveal that he wasn't truly a traitor after all.
Okay, so at that point, that Kubo was planning for the arrowhead to somehow be important, right?
Yeah.
And that was before the rush, supposedly before the rush. Maybe he was told around that time.
Yeah.
That means he was planning this supposedly before the whole rush happened, meaning that if the rush didn't happen, the result will still be the same.
At least as far as that part of it goes.
Yeah, so it would still be a Deus Ex Machina.
Well, in that case, I mean, it's not Deus Ex Machina if they're at least trying to set it up beforehand.
But it is though, because it's not set up very well at all. It's still a contrived device. Like
What the whole point of Deus Ex Machina is it comes from nowhere with no real foreshadowing.
It doesn't come from anywhere. There was no we had that one one little snippet, but other than that, it was never referenced. No one ever talked about it. Nothing.
At the very least, the fact that it's made of silver drawn from the blood of a Oswallan, which has never been referred to at all, and contradicts some of the deaths, that's what would make it a Deus Ex Machina. The fact that at least we're seeing the operation and Uryu's not understanding at the time, that's at least foreshadowing.
But we don't know we didn't know anything about what happens to people when they die. Like what's the Oswallan when they die, then they get incinerated. But for some of them, apparently not.
Well, like I said, and that's my point. I mean, that part was foreshadowing, the fact that we saw the operation going, but the fact that the Oswallan killed in such varied ways, and yet this whole method of creating the arrow is from the death caused by the Oswallan.
I think the Skype thing weird for a sec.
It's kind of you cut out a little bit yourself there, so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Okay, what happened?
So
you were saying?
Like I said, the fact that the flashback to Uryu seeing his father operating on his mother, I would call that foreshadowing, just because it is kind of setting up the idea of the arrowhead. What contradicts the idea of the arrowhead is how we've seen the Oswallan kill in so many varied ways, like you were saying just a moment ago.
Yeah. So I mean,
had that been consistent, that would have been a whole different issue.
Well, yeah, but that's an if, and we're not talking about ifs. We're talking about what we just see. And
well, I'm not even talking about ifs. I'm talking about what was.
I'm talking about what was too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. I was looking at Tekken's review, and he actually said he felt like it was because he said that it just simply wasn't good enough. Like just that one snippet.
Yeah, I mean it's not good enough, but I mean it's not like because he wasn't trying to at least.
Well, I mean, what is a Deus Ex Machina, right? Like, let's look at that up.
Well, the phrase translates to God in the machine, and it basically refers to the gods pretty much coming down and solving everybody's problems in one go.
Yeah.
With no real setup or having anything to do with it. Like, Gigantor's death, like Gerard's death, that was a Deus Ex Machina. Because it comes from nowhere, it comes from, well, not literally God, but Ewok at least, and the victory has nothing to do with the part of anyone's attempts to win the fight.
Actually, no. I remember actually. Well, I was talking about what if, but I was talking about like a different what if. Now that I think about it, I was saying that if he didn't rush it, that's what I was saying. If he didn't try to get everything in like 5 chapters, but rather maybe extend it to 15, it would the length in chapters would actually focus more on the fights though. It would just make the fights longer, right?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't actually change anything in terms of plot wise, and that's what I'm saying. Like it would still be the same.
At
regardless.
most, we would have gotten a little more time to set up the arrowhead and things like that.
but also I feel like just foreshadowing 5 chapters ahead of time is really not good. And that's what I'm saying. Like,
well, the old Igaguri, it's been longer than 5 chapters.
Or like what I'm saying, like how long has it been though? Like
I couldn't tell you the
chapters?
number. No, well, the flashback. I'm talking about the original flashback where Uryu's like looking back on his father.
Yeah. I'm talking about
that. That was definitely more than 5 chapters. I want to say at least 10.
I said 15 last time.
Okay, well you said 5.
Oh, actually no. Well, actually, did I say 5? No, I did say 5. Never mind. But 5 or 10, it needs to be more than like 15 to really be really good for. You can't just foreshadow something like 10 chapters ahead of time. Like that's just not good enough, especially with how long this arc has been.
It may have been 15. I don't know the exact number.
Well, what I'm saying, it's definitely not more than that. What I'm saying is you can't foreshadow that short of time, and then that make the modeling makes it not a Deus Ex Machina. Like that's just not good enough, especially with how long this arc has been. It's gotta be better than. It's gotta be longer than that. It's gotta feel like you've been playing this since you started this.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be blatant. It doesn't have to be one time. It can be small little references here and there. And if someone were to collect it all, it'd be like, hey, look, there's one sentence here, there's one sentence there. That's good.
When you can look back and see all the pieces, that's how you know. That's how you know there's been set up.
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense for you to foreshadow. Yeah, it's foreshadowing, not very good foreshadowing. In like the first, like like maybe a few months before the chapter got released, right? Because it was definitely this year. I can tell you that. And when you do it that short, it doesn't really feel like, it changes the fact that it kind of comes out of nowhere. Because all you have to do is just kind of extend the chapter a little bit, and suddenly it's not. Then suddenly you're supposed to argue that it's not Deus Ex Machina. Like that's the thing. Like the the final Getsu came up, right? And I guess we supposed because Kubo is not above using Deus Ex Machinas. He has used it before, and he has used.
Yeah, I mean we have Yoruichi the Thundercat, and then now the Perfect Counter we never heard about before.
And of course the famous final Getsuga, right? In all those 5, I'm assuming that he had all the time in the world. At least he thought he did, right? So if he's not above using that, then so I guess my argument is that some people will say that if Kubo did not have the rush, he would have not used the arrowhead in such a Deus Ex Machina way, right? That's the argument I'm expecting some people to say, because everyone's trying to take the blame off of Kubo. I am saying that even if he was given another year to go, and said, look, you got a year left, it would have still ended the same way, just a little longer.
And I'm willing to agree with that.
Yeah, because what I'm saying is because he did this, he foreshadowed before the rush. It showed that he was planning this even before he had to change a couple things to speed it up a bit. Because most people are upset. What I'm saying is most people are upset about the arrow. They don't like the arrow. They think it's stupid that an arrow just suddenly stops its powers, regardless of whatever explanation you give. And so I'm saying, well, too bad.
And that is a Deus Ex Machina, because that does come out of nowhere. We don't get it explained until it actually happens. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, we didn't know what the hell it could do until it was shot through Yua, though. That's the thing. Like we just knew that the arrow could kill him, or like that's the thing. When Ryukin gave him the arrowhead, he just said he could kill him or something like that, right? He didn't even say they could stop his powers. We didn't even know that until just now. Like this is the chapter that it said it could stop his powers, just for an instant, because they like using that word. Well, I'll tell you this: this entire arc kind of felt instant.
Yeah, and not in a good way.
Well, the first meaning is that it's really quick, but second meaning is that it's not very memorable. It really isn't. It feels tacked on, Like if you told me that Bleach ended right after the Fullbringer arc, I would have said, okay, that makes sense. I mean, Fullbringer arc wasn't good in my opinion, but I'm like, okay. And then suddenly we have this whole Quincy, hundreds and hundreds of Quincy's. Only some of them, of course, are actually important. But hundreds of Quincy's that was supposedly exterminated that actually were surviving all along, and they literally came out of nowhere. And Ichigo is actually not just a Shinigami; he's also a Quincy and a Hollow.
That part I always did like. I always liked the whole thing that he was like this little bit of everything.
We didn't even know that until Aizen said that little phrase about your mom is a blah blank. It's just it felt like. It felt like he didn't come up with this until like halfway through the Aizen fight. You know what I'm saying? Like it felt like he's like, yeah, I want this to be longer. How about I make this arc where Quincy's are actually the enemy, You know, because I tell you this: when he wrote Bleach the first time, I could tell you he had Aizen in the back of his head. I'm sure he did. You know, when he planned Bleach, when he started Bleach, the first chapter, I'm sure he thought, you know, if I can get through the first chapter, I mean the first year, I can do the Soul Society thing, I can do the Aizen thing, and then we can do the Huecamundo thing possibly. You know, because he introduced Huecamundo, and he did reference Soul Society, I think.
Well, Soul Society he was referenced from the beginning, but
oh yeah, exactly, yeah, he did, yeah, but he also showed Huecamundo a little later, you know. And then he had the whole fight with Ruki, like, and then he had the Hollow thing. Like everything was. It seemed like he was literally to the end of even to the Wake of Moon arc. You could show that he had plans, and it felt to me like the Vanreich arc was something that he didn't even come up with until like maybe halfway through the fake Karakurtan arc. And then he's like, oh, maybe I could do this. And that's why I say it feels like tacked on. It feels like there's no reference to the Quincy's other than the fact that other than from Urio's storyline until. Aizen only said that one damn line, and then we got nothing from that until the start of the actual Vanreich arc. If you took out that one line, if you just simply took out that one line that Aizen said, you would have literally thought that the Vanreich thing came out of Kubo's ass like literally the day after the Fullbringer arc ended.
Yeah. But because of that, we at least can pretend there was some kind of setup, or he can pretend at least he had some setup.
And this is why I tell people, like, you know, I know you guys want the Bleach anime to come back. I don't think you should. I think it ended just right where it should have, you know? That Ichigo came back, he became Shinigami again, now he can do what he wants. Like, that's an open ending that, like, Japanese people love. Like, you know? That's it's a very Japanese type of ending, you know? Very open-ended, he's gonna continue his life, who knows what might happen. Okay, so we have one chapter left. So you're saying that, you know, maybe we might get you a little US backstory?
Yeah, or at least some kind of final words type thing.
As much as I would like that in and of itself, that's just gonna eat. You know, I'm worried because that's gonna eat away at some of the pages. I'm assuming that because it's the last chapter, they're gonna give him like 40 pages, right? 40, 50 pages. Hell, maybe even more.
I don't think they are actually, because I think Nisekoi is getting a longer chapter. Bleach is getting color pages.
Really?
I don't have any basis on that one. That's what I've been hearing on a couple of forums.
Okay. Well, let's assume that there's 40 pages, right? Let's do that. Okay. Because if it's 19 pages, I have no idea what the hell's gonna happen. But if it's 40 pages, then you're gonna have to kind of do a checkbox of everything, and say, okay, you got Yua's backstory, which will take up like 5 pages, maybe even more. I'm being optimistic here. Then we have to catch up on what everyone else is doing. Then we have to catch up on what the hell was the Soul King, and what the hell happened to Aizen? Is he actually dead? Are we seriously gonna never get his Bankai? One of the biggest villains. The biggest villain prior to Yuha, and we don't even see what his Bankai can do. That seems like a big cop-out to me. The biggest cop-out I've ever seen, actually. Like, I get that sometimes you don't want to have the villain go full power. I mean, like, I know Soida was clever with this. When they had, like, Mosquito go full power, he was killed just as he was going to go full power. Like, that's actually kind of cool. But he was not the biggest villain. Aizen is. Just to be deprived with that of all the characters, you know, that's just kind of point. I just feel like that's horrible. That's horrible.
I mean,
because it's just like why didn't he use it to kill Ichigo? Why didn't he use it to do anything? You know, like maybe could have made a difference. You know, because if Shikai can be so powerful, what can his Bankai can do? You know, and so what happens to Aizen? What is up with the Soul King? What was the point of the limbs? Because and first off, we don't even have the legs anymore. Like what happened to the legs? Because we see all these questions. So we have to see what happens to everyone. You know. By the way, Kenpachi, disappointment.
Yeah. I mean, all of this, and he doesn't really contribute anything.
I thought that if Orihime healed him up and he came in the last second and helped Ichigo out, I'd be like, okay, that'd be cool. That didn't happen, obviously. What else is there? Then we have to go back and see how Ichigo's gonna, like, is he gonna come back to his friends? Is he gonna have to be stuck in Soul Society because he's so powerful now, or whatever? I mean, he lost a lot of his powers too, though. So who knows if that maybe could allow him to go back home. You know, and then we have to, of course, we have to have this type of, you know, how is Ichigo gonna readjust to his life? So we have a lot of things to kind of go over,
and not a lot of time to do them in.
Yeah, and of course, I can still see that be done in 40 pages if you just have to be kind of quick with it, but you can do it. If it's gonna get 19, 20 pages, there's a lot of shit we're gonna have to skip. Or we get 1 page for each, which is kind of like, okay. I mean, it just, even now, I just can't believe there's only 1 chapter left. Like,
yeah. Hey, but at this point, I think we're good to call it here because we've been going for a pretty good while on this sucker.
Well, I mean, this is a chapter that is just so mind-boggling. I mean, if you saw Tekken 101's review, he got really upset. I mean, he got. I mean, I don't know about the other reviewers because I don't actually like them very much. But with Tekken 101, he got pretty upset.
Yeah.
He like destroyed his props actually.
Wow.
Like he's had like this entire time. Like he destroyed it. So he was upset. That said, I will say this: as much as I've kind of smashed Bleach in the face,
Yeah.
I think the biggest I genuinely feel bad for Bleach, the manga, and the fans. I don't feel bad for Kubo. You know, if it was just Kubo, I say he deserves it. But because the fans are involved, and because Bleach has its own creative story, is its own entity, I genuinely feel bad this is happening. You know, it sucks when this happens to a very short series that gets canceled, double arts. But it sucks really, really hard when you have people reading since 2001, 15 years, and all that time, all that money actually gets invested for this moment. I'm not gonna make fun of this. I feel genuinely bad about it, and I can only say, I'm sorry that this happened. It's I have no other words to say this, and I think Kubo I think should apologize to the fans. He doesn't have to apologize to the haters or people who he doesn't have to do to me or you. Just to the fans who have been following you all the time. Yeah, been loyal to you. I want you to go in public. Don't do this in Twitter or some whatever, because I don't think he even has a Twitter. Don't do this on social media. Go public and say, I'm sorry, because this is such bullshit. Alright, I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, so at that point, I think that we can call it the end of our review for Bleach 684, The Blade. Go ahead and take us away.
Bye.